welcome to Visual Narrative Imperative Episode 3, episode title...
Oh my, Lo-Fi Sci-Fi, or Undervalued Science Fiction Addiction. And we're going to be talking about today all of the sci-fi films, the greatest ones that you've never seen. And John, you have one that you have picked out that you absolutely adore.
Well, first, let's introduce our guest today joining us.
Hi, I'm still Andrew until otherwise said.
I'm leaving that in. Joining us today, we have Steven Bateman. Steven, tell him what you do on the internet machine.
Hi. In addition to being irritating on YouTube, I also am co-host for Why Haven't I Seen This, a retro movie review podcast, and I portray the Murdering Turtle and Edwin Misnomer Bond Shift on the Atheist Apocalypse podcast.
I just love those names so much. Okay, so now getting back to what Brandon was saying. I'm so happy we're doing this subject because this right here is one of my favorite movies I've ever seen, Moon. Sam Rockwell is the only real character of the whole film, with Kevin Spacey as a robot.
That was
Kevin Spacey was perfect.
Wow, I keep forgetting that.
And I went directly from that to watching House of Cards, so it was weird. It was weird. But no, I love this movie more than anything else. It actually got me to go see some of his earlier works, which we're, I'm sure, going to get to later. Or his later works, I guess it would be. This was his earlier work, wasn't it? What came first, the moon or the source code for the moon?
Oh, Duncan Jones, the director of this. This was one of his first projects. Then he went on to do Source Code, and now he's doing Warcraft, a video game movie. As you know, all video game movies suck. Yeah. This might suck less.
Yeah, it's got a great director behind it. What makes Moon special?
It has a great story,
and it's really hard to pitch this movie without spoiling this movie.
Yeah,
which is, I guess, a spoiler enough as it is.
It's 2010 minus Kubrick, plus character development.
Yeah,
it's sort of like definitely. 2001: A Space Odyssey meets.
That is what I meant.
Probably like the Twilight Zone. There's just a really weird, creepy, maybe this guy's insane. Maybe something really extraordinary is happening to him. Sam Rockwell, so undervalued. One of the best actors I've ever seen as a character actor. He's always in the sideline. You never notice him. Like in Green Mile. He's phenomenal, but you don't even know it's Sam Rockwell. That's how far he dives deep into
this is
characters.
One of my favorite movies, and when I saw Iron Man 2, I didn't even know it was him. You know, he just disappears.
Sort of like Seven Psychopaths. He's just this zany, just out there guy, and he's so good.
What's yours?
Well, I have a couple that I could choose from.
Someone's usurping the stage.
Well, if you have one...
No, go ahead.
There's so many that I could talk about. I'll talk about my one that came out in 2013 in South Korea, directed by Bong Joon-ho. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. And then it didn't get a release until 2014 for the Weinstein Company. And that is Snowpiercer with Chris Evans and John Hurt. And
Tilda Swinton,
one of the best supporting characters I saw in cinema that year. It's about a high-tech, self-sustaining train that traverses the globe after an apocalyptic event happens that causes the whole world to turn to ice. And the only people left...
and Ed Harris.
Oh, Ed Harris is really great in that as well. And there's other ones that I'm missing, obviously. But... The reason this film works so well is it has like this really dark existential tone, but there's actually substance to back it up. There's death and sacrifice and these huge themes of what does it mean to take down dystopian society and what will be the cost of that. And at the end of the film, we kind of figure out what the cost of rebuilding society actually costs. And Chris Evans gives probably one of the greatest performances I've ever seen on screen. Sunshine, he's really brilliant. Well, speaking of other lo-fi sci-fi. But I love that movie so much. It's literally my favorite movie that came out in 2014. And Yeah. Any one that you really appreciate?
Well, this one is going to come a little out of nowhere because it doesn't look like sci-fi, but Escape from Tomorrow was a surprising sci-fi movie for me because I didn't think it was a sci-fi movie. I thought it was going to be It presents itself as sort of a Philip K. Glassian mind movie.
Okay.
Mind swear word. I don't know.
Oh, don't worry. We say a lot.
Okay. All right. Good.
Brain explosive mind movie. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's how it presents itself, and then it turns to sci-fi at the drop of a hat.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very good. The reason I was drawn to this movie is because it's filmed guerrilla style at Disneyland without permission from the Walt Disney Company.
Which is mind-blowing. That is so much effort.
So much effort. The entire thing is shot in black and white, so lighting was important. So they had to shoot so much in this window. It would be referred to as the golden hour back when black and white film was the standard. But it was 6 minutes. 6 minutes that they could shoot the best scenes.
How did they get away with that without Disney suing them?
Well, that's a transformative work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they weren't just going through Disneyland and showing people what Disneyland was like. They were using Disneyland as a backdrop for something more interesting. It was considered transformative. A number of legal scholars stepped in and said, no, this is transformative. You can't sue. You can't sue, Disney.
I'm still surprised it stopped them. I mean, usually when Disney runs into a copyright law it doesn't like, it just has the law changed. I mean, that's why our copyright's so long as it is.
Well, but they exploit that very thing with Cinderella and their
Oh, yeah.
classic fairy tale movies.
Well, that's one of the things a lot of people have, as one of the problems a lot of people have with Disney is that they exploited copyrights, what Disney would now call loopholes, and that made them the company they are now. But now that they've actually got some IP they want to protect, it's like, nobody else can talk about Mickey Mouse but us.
And so what's sort of a little bit like the plot of the film?
Well, it opens on a guy getting fired from his job on his last day of vacation at Disneyland. And he decides, no, this is going to be I'm not going to tell anybody about this. I'm going to carry this psychological burden on my own. And as he goes through Disneyland, we start to see weird imagery. Things turn into monsters very briefly. He starts to get sicker and more drunk. He follows around a couple 16-year-old French girls, which is very creepy and is played as such. And then things start to get weird.
Is it a little found footage-y?
No,
Or
surprisingly, it's shot well.
Is there any animation in that?
There is a little bit of animation here and there. There are a couple things that are obvious productions. There are a couple shots that are obvious green screen because they were longer than the window allowed.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of anything that is strictly animation.
Interesting. So I saw a recent one it was Mickey Mouse. It was sort of like a weird psychedelic twist on like the whole Walt Disney. I'm not sure if this was the one you were talking about.
Oh, no.
There's also like The Congress, if you've seen, another lo-fi sci-fi film. Which had amazing potential with Robin Wright, but it ended up sucking. But it had an amazing score and was really trippy and had some really great ideas. Like half the movie's in animation, like where people have these drugs they take and they perceive the entire world as cartoons. And however you want to be perceived, your scent will give that off. So you'll be perceived as like a model if you want to be perceived as a model. You'll be perceived as a monster if you want to be. It's a combination of like The Matrix and just like a whole bunch of other trippy dystopian futures.
That sounds very promising. And
it sounds amazing. It's really poorly acted and not paced at all and kind of stupid. But had so much potential, and it's really trippy.
Nothing's quite as upsetting as a movie that you can just see oozing potential, and then it's just a crap movie at the end.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier. There's quite a few like that. Primer, I think, is a really good example of that. Although some people think Primer is the ultimate end-all, be-all of all sci-fi. I don't think it really works as a movie. It's an amazing concept, and they execute all the ideas at the end. They're rewarding, but there's not much substance there.
I haven't seen it, but I'm familiar. Primer's the one that goes in depth about time travel.
Time travel. This is like the ultimate time travel movie that actually makes sense to a certain extent of time travel making any sense. this is the most making sense of time travel we've probably ever seen.
Does it like break everything anytime you time travel? Because that's like the more realistic you get, the more everything just goes to shit.
It gets sort of complicated. There's at the end, I don't want to really spoil anything, but there's multiple versions of people,
Okay.
and they can't like interact because they're afraid it will create paradoxes. So they gotta like interloop their lives, and each one is following like a different path. But they gotta also slightly affect things to cause things to work in their favor. It's really complicated.
Huh.
That reminds me of a Spanish movie I saw a couple of years ago before I was doing the podcast called Time Crimes. The movie starts with a dude moving into his new house and slacking off and using his binoculars to check out the woods behind his house where he sees a dude murder a woman. He goes to investigate and he finds a lab with a time machine in it, wherein he gets a 20-minute rundown of how time travel actually works, and then they demonstrate how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that he's the dude murdering the woman. Spoilers.
Nice.
Via this very complicated turn of effects where he gets injured and has to wear a mask so he doesn't recognize himself immediately. And it turns out that he's not really murdering the woman. It's
Protecting her, but via protecting her, maybe he kills her or something.
Yeah, from the outside it looks very menacing.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend it. I think it's on Netflix. If not, you can get it at any good local video store. It's put up by Magnet Films. It'll probably be in the indie section.
Yeah, speaking of time travel movies that are lo-fi sci-fi, one that recently came out, I wrote a review on it, is Predestination with Ethan Hawke. That has like 8 twists in it, and it's paradoxical at its core, but Predestination, you have to go to a certain event to cause something else to happen, to make sure this happens, to make sure this happens. And this is similar to Primer, but it's actually thematic and visually stunning.
So it's like the butterfly effect on purpose type of stuff?
I love the idea that the butterfly effect was an accident. The movie, not the butterfly effect.
I have not seen the butterfly effect, but it's kind of similar to a movie I
It
will
comes
be talking
across
about.
as an accident.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like an accident now that I think about it.
Yeah, this one was based off of a novella of an author. I can't remember the title of the book. It might have been Predestination. And it's set in 1960s type of era, and sort of that visual style and that aesthetic. The production design is brilliant in that. And Sarah Snook, this Australian actress, she plays a male and a female character in the film. And this isn't spoiling anything because this is actually in the trailer. And
That doesn't necessarily mean much.
Well, it's actually a really
Like
put together trailer that doesn't spoil as much as you'd think. It doesn't actually spoil really anything
I've seen
at all.
the trailer for The Martian, and that is like made of spoilers.
Hollywood is horrible at that now. That's why I wrote an article on Star Wars, why its marketing campaign has worked so far, is because there really isn't.
Although
the international Japanese
Japanese
maybe going a little too far, but who knows?
I am honestly, to completely sidetrack into the least lo-fi of sci-fi. I'm kind of worried by how many trailers are coming out.
Really? Oh, the TV spots?
Yeah, they're up to like 5 or 6 trailers now, official trailers.
Of Star Wars? JJ said after like the official trailer.
Teaser, trailer, TV spot?
Yeah, he said after the official trailer there wouldn't be any more quote-unquote trailers, but there's TV spots. I'm not watching the TV spots personally. People can do that if they want.
Yeah.
But it's not like a TV spot's going to show up at a local cinema and you'll be like, oh, watching a different movie, and it'll just show up in your face.
That's a fair point. Point. I just feel like they took all of the good parts of Avengers 2 and put them out in TV spots.
That doesn't surprise me.
That's how they do trailers. Because it's like they threw the motorcycle. They said, I'm fighting an army of robots and all I've got is a bow and arrow.
Okay. With Avengers, it's fine if you spoil. Don't spoil the TV spots for me.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to. I'm actually avoiding them.
Yeah.
Probably a good plan. I haven't seen them either. But it's Star Wars, man. They were gonna do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's been something that's been coming for years. And
many years.
With any luck, it's gonna make up for the god-awful prequels. Although, did you hear the... I can't remember the character. Have you seen the Jar Jar thing yet?
Yes.
That is amazing. We talked about it in the last podcast a little bit. That is so amazing. But actually, if I can transition a little bit here, a Star Wars movie that people haven't seen what Star Wars is that they haven't seen is the Star Wars Clone Wars Volume 1 actual like anime type style, and there's 5 chapters.
See, that's like the only Star Wars thing I haven't seen.
It is so good. It's so good. Like all the prequel stuff for the most part doesn't work. Even the Clone Wars TV show, which some people love.
Now the TV show movie wasn't too bad. It was like the first 2 episodes of the TV show that they made into a movie. That was
all right, but I didn't think it was very good.
It was better than episode 1.
But what I was talking about, the Volume 1 of you can't even buy it on like Blu-ray or DVD on Amazon. That's how like obscure it is right now. I was going on eBay, I found one seller for $12. I might have to get that. But it was split into 2 volumes. The first volume is better than the first. It has Anakin versus Asajj Ventress. Actually shows some kind of turning to the dark side, but we didn't really kind of get in the prequels. And Mace Windu fight scene. I love that fight scene.
Yeah.
I've watched it like 20 times. It's really cool.
Speaking of films that have great potential and then just throw it away, the fact of Mace Windu, period, was just such great potential that was just wasted. If they would have let him be,
present.
I was just thinking, I want Jules from Pulp Fiction as a Jedi.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They didn't have enough movies, and he wasn't a big enough of a character, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's like all of his acting direction, you could tell was just like, be calm, show no emotion.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah.
No, you take the angriest actor in Hollywood and you go, okay, now just sit there and be still. Don't do anything. Yeah. Don't show emotions on your face.
I will say...
Don't act.
Yeah.
I will say, one of my favorite lines, though, of the prequels is Mace Windu going up and attack the clones. Like, this party's over.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like he's beginning to show something, and then he actually fights, and that's cool. But then after that, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. And then his death scene is one of the most disappointing death scenes. Just the... No! Yeah. The behind the scenes makes it look even worse.
Yeah.
Because he literally just stands there going... and then falls backwards.
Oh, no.
It's so bad.
Behind the scenes typically do that. They kind of ruin things.
Yeah.
Some actually make it better. Like with Moon, it's pretty amazing when you think like 90% of the film is not CGI. It's all just
it's very
practical effects. Duncan Jones and Sam Rockwell wanted to make sure that this felt authentic, and we're harkening back to like the older sci-fi, like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
It felt lived in, like very few sci-fi movies actually end up doing, because it's really easy to make something that's milled aluminum that looks really clean and shiny.
Exactly.
It's really hard to make something that's milled aluminum and looks used and dirty. It's much harder to make a dinged MacBook than a MacBook.
Exactly. Yeah. It's hard to put character in something that is by definition supposed to be clean.
Yeah.
So the fact they did it is great. It felt like a real thing, as opposed to, hey guys, this is a moon base. Just buy it. Just accept it.
Yep. It's the difference between the Martian in space parts and the Martian on Mars parts. The space parts are very 2001, very
perfect,
clean, very perfect, very bad 0G.
Yeah.
And the parts on Mars, you can tell he's been there a while, because everything just looks broken. Love that movie.
I'm eager to see it.
Yeah, it's so good. I've seen it, I guess, only twice in theaters.
Only twice.
Only twice in theaters.
Only twice.
You've only spent, what is that now, $60?
Yeah, feels like it. I'm debating going back and seeing it in 3D, because I hear it was actually a really well done 3D.
Okay, so yeah, I saw it in 3D. The beginning 20 minutes are phenomenal in 3D, but the rest of the movie isn't in 3D until maybe like the last 5-10 minutes.
Huh.
So it's kind of like, why do I have to have these glasses on for the rest of the movie? The beginning's crazy cool with the dust storm. You can see the specks like floating around you. It's really cool.
Well, and isn't like part of the heads-up display 3D? Do I remember hearing that?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Because I could have just been too into the film to even recognize it.
That's one of those things that I think would be a really good idea. Like when you're seeing an in-helmet view, make those things pop out of the screen. I feel like that would just be a good use of 3D. But I haven't actually seen a movie that did that yet, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a movie that has really good 3D, I typically hate 3D, but I'll see it in 3D once or twice, just to make sure it doesn't. Because some films actually are good. Like Avatar's amazing in 3D. Some like The Desolation of Smaug was really good in 3D.
See, that one bothered me a little bit.
It did bother you?
It did. I thought the distance scenes were the big, wide, sweeping panoramas. I felt like those were actually hampered by the 3D because he always tried to put something in the close foreground that just seemed too close. Mm-hmm. And so that took me out of all of those gorgeous shots. I saw it again. I saw it in 3D and IMAX, and I saw it in 2D.
I thought the other two Hobbit films didn't really work in 3D. I like Desolation, though. But Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. There's 4 or 5 titles for the film. All you need is kill. Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat. Mm-hmm. Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. But that 3D is pretty phenomenal. Especially it worked with the aliens that they were fighting. And the big battle sequences that were as close to Saving Private Ryan as you could get while still holding a PG-13 rating. And Live, Die, Repeat's interesting because people know about it because it was sort of a big blockbuster and they did spend a lot of money on it, but no one went to go see it.
Yep. Its U.S. box office, if I remember, was pretty shit. It made up for it in the international market, but it was a $178 million movie that did not premiere at number 1.
No.
That's
I think it was because Tom Cruise. They were trying to get over Oblivion, and Oblivion was such a disappointment. It had good concepts, but that should have been like a 40-minute short film instead of this like 3-hour epic that just felt horrible.
Yeah. Well, and not only did it not premiere at number 1, it premiered at number 2 behind a movie that cost $12 million.
What was that?
The Fault in Our Stars, the John Green novelization.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I remember when that came out. That was just killed it. People weren't expect. They thought it'd do good, but it murdered.
Yeah.
Banking off Shailene Woodley's upcoming.
Well, did she really have up and coming appeal yet, or was that kind? I think that was kind.
I think it was banking off of Divergent. Although Divergent did.
Divergent wasn't out yet. I'm pretty sure Divergent was the next year.
I think it was right in between Insurgent and Divergent.
They came out at like the same time. It was like 2 weeks later.
All right. Well, I could still be banking off other young adult novels like The Hunger Games.
Yep.
Or
it really
was Maze Runner.
It was really a teen audience movie.
I remember seeing the trailer for Maze Runner when I went to the premiere, so I'm pretty. I can't imagine them showing a trailer for something already out. The Fault in Our Stars, though, great movie. Not at all sci-fi, so completely off topic. I loved that movie. I cried. I cried too,
but it was like way overdone and hammy at the end. At the very end. Okay.
Yes.
If rewind like 20 minutes when he's giving the speech. We're not going to give any spoilers here. But that was really emotionally evocative, but I don't think what's his name, Ansel Elgort. I don't think he's
Ansel Elgort.
Elgort, yeah.
Yes.
I don't think he's that great of an actor.
No, he's a pretty boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like everybody else in the film was a better actor than him.
Mm-hmm. But I felt what I needed to because I like Shailene Woodley. There hasn't been an awakening. Have you felt it? Just let it in. Stay on target. Stay on target.
That came from
behind. Okay.
I'm gonna have to put
so if we're getting a little bit more on target here, harkening back to sort of like the aesthetic feel of something in space, Mr. Nobody has a really interesting take on it because it's more of a pseudo sci-fi, so it has like sort of a fantasy type feel to it. The editor from Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind worked on this, and it's it was foreign financiers who did this. It was a Belgium director who did it in Canada, and they spent, I believe, $60 million on this, and it was completely financed by independent people, which is a lot considering.
Yeah, that's pretty low budget.
It's a high budget for a low budget movie, and Jared Leto's in it.
Not quite low budget, but not quite high budget.
Yeah, well, considering that it wasn't financed by any major studio or anything, that's really impressive. And I understand why they didn't finance it, although I wish they would have. It's this little boy who can kind of see into the future, and you can see all the different divergent paths that his life could take. And all of those stem from a major moment in his life where he either chooses to leave with his mom to go to America after a divorce or stay with his dad in England. And then you see from his eyes all of these different lives, and they kind of intermix and intertangle. Some of the best editing I've ever seen in film is in Mr. Nobody. There's this one shot where he's in New York lying in bed. It kind of zooms around and then goes over his bed and then zooms up to the New York skyline floating around and then pans up. And then you see this postcard, and it has the exact same picture, and then it zooms up to his face, and he's in another life, and it's a postcard from his mom in New York.
Damn. Wow.
Yeah, there's some amazing sequences in that film.
I want to see that movie just for that sequence now.
Yeah, there's a couple sequences that are a little overlong, but the first hour and a half of this movie is just phenomenal. It takes a little patience because there's about 20 different ways to interpret this movie, and there's just so much thought into it. But I feel like the ending's worth it. The ending's one of the better endings that I've ever seen. That's why it's in like my top 5 movies ever. It's not for everyone though, but it generally audiences really like it. I believe it has like a 7.7 on IMDb. So, considering that it's an existential film, that's really high.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, has to come from Jared Leto being such a supreme actor. He has like 2 roles in this film. One's like a way older version of him where he's like 120 years old. He's completely unrecognizable.
How did they do the age makeup? That's a make
It was
or break
pretty
for
good.
a
It was
movie.
pretty good. It could have been a little bit better, but it was really good. Considering that they're doing, 120-year-old guy.
Yeah. I've never seen truly like, wow, that was great. Age makeup.
Age
It's
makeup
really
never
hard.
looks good.
Yeah.
You just kind of have to go, okay, that's a representation of him being old. I'm still on board. It's fine.
There's never a perfect age makeup. Maybe in black and white films, like, for its time, Citizen Kane had really good age makeup. And black and white can kind of cover up some of the imperfections.
It can hide the crimes a lot, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'd say it's time to take a break. When we get back,
Okay.
we'll start talking about some of the ones that we're not quite sure about.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we screwed up. We lost the outro to this podcast. So this is the end of part 1. Part 2 is going to post next week. Please like us on Facebook, like us on YouTube, comment, and subscribe. Hope to see you next week.